हाँ भाई, क्या हाल है भैया। आज के हमारे पॉडकास्ट की जो गेस्ट है, मैं उस डेजिग्नेशन का काफ़ी देर से इंतजार करता टू हैव इन फ्रंट ऑफ मी, बिकॉज आप लोग के बहुत सारे सवाल होते हैं एचआर से रिलेटेड। जॉब कैसे लेनी है, सीवी कैसी होनी चाहिए, लिंक्डइन कैसा होना चाहिए, सारे सवालों के जवाब आज हमारे साथ दिए सना अहमद ने, जो कि एचआर डायरेक्टर हैं लॉरियल पाकिस्तान की। बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग पर्सनैलिटी और बहुत अच्छी हमारी कॉन्वर्जेशन रही, आप बहुत इंजॉय करेंगे। आइए देखते हैं पॉडकास्ट। Hi Sana, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for coming. और मैं अभी जैसे रोल होने से पहले बता रहा था, for the longest time I wanted someone from the HR जो कि यहाँ आए और बताएं कि सही रेज्यूमे, अच्छी सीवी क्या होती है, कैसी दिखती है। प्लीज़, फॉर द लव ऑफ गॉड, क्योंकि जिस तरह लोग बना के भेजते हैं कि हमने ये बनाई है, ओ गॉड, ऐसे तो जॉब नहीं मिलेगी। तो प्लीज़।
नहीं मिल सकती है ऐसे। I don't think there is no perfect format.
Okay.
To be very honest, like I think recruiters' eyes are usually trained on certain formats because when you look at the corporate sector, so usually अगर आप एक university में पढ़ते हैं, say for example LUMS या NAST या IBA types, तो what happens is कि वो universities के standard formats हैं, right? So when I see a resume, even without reading it, I know ये बच्चा LUMS का है या ये candidate NAST का है या ये IB का है, young level, because they are following the university prescribed format.
Oh, really?
Right?
Is there a formula?
So there is usually a formula by every business school to say, कि this is how your resume should look. So we're able to, if you've been in recruitment as long as I have, so you can tell even before.
Right.
However, I think so what matters is the content, and different people have very different ways of putting contents. I see resumes with visuals. I see resumes which are PowerPoints. I see resumes which are really long.
है ना?
3 pages. I see resumes जो 1 page भी नहीं हो रहे, but they're very powerful too. So I think a resume you should know what is a must-have, as opposed to all what you must put in, because it's your story. It's a 30-second visual for any recruiter to say, do I want to meet this person? So I think if I was to give advice on how to make your resumes more attractive, I would say they need to be practical. So don't give me a very flowery understanding of passionate, dynamic team leader, ready to rock and roll, because we can't assess how. So I think it has to be very realistic and pragmatic in its approach. It should focus on achievements as opposed to what you do. Because, for example, if I'm hiring a marketing manager or a brand manager for that matter, I know that I'm looking at people who are working on brands. Net, the jobs might be the same, but how are you different from the rest is something that you can sell in your resume. So I think resumes that are result focused, resumes that are honest, resumes that are actually practical with the usage of the words, and you're putting yourself out there. So as long as you're truthful, you're comfortable, I think even on one page, the beauty is that a recruiter is able to tell, so stick to the reality.
So what you're saying is कि interview session जो है, it's a movie, but आपका resume जो और trailer है, trailer अच्छा लगेगा तो मैं movie देखने के लिए बुलाऊंगी,
जाऊँ, कोशिश करूँगी कि
right? अच्छा, so like अब एक करके इस पे आते हैं. First of all, is it important to put a picture on resume?
Not at all.
Not at all?
Not at all.
Does it matter?
No.
अगर किसी ने लगाई हो तो?
Doesn't matter. So why do it? It's using space. You could use it better.
Right.
So not to me.
So, और लंबे paragraph? It's a big no.
No, for sure. I mean, look at your own self when you're scrolling content these days. So whether you're on Insta or on Facebook, do you read lambe paragraph? So if you don't read lambe paragraphs, then why should I? So I think it's really learning that the new age of information processing is very different. It's visual. And by visual, I don't mean कि आप painting बना दें, but visually, is it appealing to read? Is it easy to read? In today's age, paragraphs are no longer easy to read. I mean, so I would say कि जब हम Facebook virality की बात करते हैं, for even your brand, जिसे वो 7 seconds का timeline है for an audience to choose whether they are buying or not. YouTube ads are 5 seconds, right? So I would say that be smart. So a person is going to hold your resume for maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes in order to just scan. I'm not saying that there's not more done, but this is the start of maybe a longer friendship of sorts. You have your chance to make a very solid impression. So use it wisely.
Acha, so like in a given hiring season, how many resumes are you processing in a day?
How many resumes? So I don't recruit because of my position. I have lots of recruiters
Sure.
in the team, but even when I am, I think so for any given position, I go through about 800, 900 resumes at least minimum
A day?
for the position. Now,
Okay.
so a day
So
तो नहीं
let's
होएगा,
say
लेकिन
entry level
position.
job है and आप नहीं देख रही but आपके associates देख रहे हैं या HR interns
टीम
देख रहे हैं,
है,
टीम देख
associate
रहे
कुछ नहीं
हैं.
होता.
Okay, टीम देख रही है. तो वो कितने प्रोसेस, क्योंकि what I'm trying to tell people who are listening is कि एक दिन में अगर उन्होंने 500 पढ़ने हैं तो वो आपके लिए जो है, और अगर 8 घंटे की शिफ्ट है जिसमें से 1 घंटा लंच का भी निकाल लें, थोड़ा सा चाय टी कॉफ़ी भी निकाल लें, 7 घंटे अगर उसको हम डिवाइड करें 500 से, तो आपके पास कुछ सेकंड्स ही आते हैं.
True.
So that's what I'm trying to inculcate.
Yeah.
कि ये
I think the more entry level the position is, the higher the pool is. Like,
True.
you know, so उधर तो बहुत कम space of mind होता है, to be very honest, which is why a lot of companies, including my own, we believe in business games and we encourage people to come into our competitions and our case study assessments, because there is no way that only the resume is going to tell us about you, because net, what are you going to say? That I've graduated from a university, I have this project and I've worked on, I'm in these many clubs, right? So how do you make your story different? So it's all about putting your experience, which is why we also say, ke, use your university years wisely. Like, you know, do things that others aren't doing. Like, you know, so don't be a commodity, be a product. Like, you know, so as a result of that, the junior the position, the higher the resume bank is. Like, you know, to be very honest. And usually talent acquisition teams jo hoti hain dedicated, I think for any given position, the interest in positions is determined by what job it is and how commonly it is available in Pakistan. So, for example, digital ki jobs, not many people have those expertise. But then there are traditional jobs, for example, HR, where lots of people have gone this path and are doing it. So, you might get a bigger pool. But on an average, I think so, कि किसी भी job के लिए roughly 1,000 resumes, so you sift, you screen. The first step of finding the candidates to interview is that you screen a resume, right? Then you shortlist. Like, you know, so screening on an average, I think so, is where you make your first impression. So I think and like I say, I have to say use marketing concepts. कि अगर you cannot watch a video for more than 7 seconds on YouTube and on Instagram you see a picture rather than the description, then you need to know to market yourself as a brand, what you put on one page needs to be very powerful too. And there is no fixed formula for that. I mean to say, it's your story. Tell it in a way that you're most comfortable with.
So 3 पेजों का नहीं भेजें.
Ideally, no. मेरा resume is 1 page.
Right.
And I have like roughly 11-12 years of work experience.
Yeah, so there you go. सुन लिया भाई. अच्छा, जो entry level वाले होते हैं, अब उनका सबसे बड़ा, because पाकिस्तान में it's not encouraged and maybe the system is designed in a way कि बच्चे ग्रेजुएशन के बाद काम करना शुरू करते हैं. Whereas in the West we see कि वो 16 साल की उम्र से 18 साल की उम्र से they start doing jobs here and there. उनके पास थोड़ा बहुत relevant experience ना भी हो, but at least they have team building, किसी टीम में काम करने का experience होता है, social होते हैं वगैरह वगैरह. So what अब जैसे हम देखते हैं द बिग बिजनेस स्कूल्स, वो तो अच्छी तरह प्रिपेयर भी करते हैं, उनके यहाँ सोशल क्लब्स भी होते हैं, ये भी होते हैं, असाइनमेंट्स भी होते हैं, सो पीपल हैव समथिंग टू शो. बट जो हमारी रेगुलर यूनिवर्सिटीज़ होती हैं वहाँ पे शायद इतना कुछ नहीं होता. सो व्हाट डू यू रिकमेंड उन यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के बच्चों को कि आप एटलीस्ट ये चीज़ें करके आएँ? फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर आप मार्केटिंग के लिए ही आ रहे हैं तो क्या क्या चीज़ें आप जो दैट विल आउटशाइन योर रेज्यूमे अमंग द पूल ऑफ अदर्स? क्योंकि ज़्यादातर तो कोरे ही होंगे कि हमने अभी कुछ नहीं किया, ये हमारी पहली जॉब है, राइट?
That's a great question, and I think the trend is changing in Pakistan. Like, you know, so I think many young talents are actually working, and companies have become more open to working with students in college. I think the shift is not that the students didn't want to take the opportunity. I think corporates are also not willing to give that opportunity,
Exactly.
right? So in America and the West, this is very common. I think the culture is slowly changing in Pakistan too. For example, people can come and intern with you. Like, I think you'll be very open to it. People, lots of students come and intern with us outside our internship season just to do a project or a 3-month assignment of sorts where we need help. I was in ISIC, which is phenomenal amount of leadership experience that you can get. For the students who are less fortunate to have exposure or access or options inside the universities, I think there are lots and lots of companies in Pakistan that are offering this support. So look for internships, show your interest, use your network to say that allow me any exposure that I'm interested in, find people who want to work with you, and I think they will pleasantly find there are lots of opportunities that you can pass around. Then there is, of course, student societies and clubs that go beyond just a campus. So ISIC is a great example that it's all over Pakistan. You can apply and join. But I think, and if not that, even it's up to it's digital. Everything is online. There's lots of online work available on many, many platforms, etc. But I would say, what you do is up to you. Not everybody has to take the same route, right? But whatever your passion is, pursue it. I think just going through the motions of कि मैं school गया, मैं university गया, मैंने job कर ली, I don't think there's any fun in that today, right? Who you? And I think a lot of people now, I think a lot of our young talent is very promising that way, that they want to express themselves. They all have their own quirks and their own understanding and their own dreams. Pursue them early on because what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
Life will go by and you'll still be thinking, मुझे कोई opportunity देगा नहीं देगा कोई, right? You have to grab it.
Yeah.
And you have to be motivated by it, and you have to be not lazy about it. I think... so my only message on this is opportunity बहुत है. Pakistan में भी बहुत है, right? When I was in university, I remember a lot of advertising agencies saying, if you want to be creative, come work with us. We would not go. Because hang out करना था, या अब्बू ने permission नहीं दी, या driver नहीं था, so many issues. But I think today Pakistan is offering a lot more opportunity. I think students are a lot more empowered. There is a lot more awareness thanks to social media, digital media, a collective stance by corporations in Pakistan to change the way we work. I think so. I think my only advice is don't be lazy and no, I don't agree कि सबको एक ही चीज़ करनी है, कि सबको internship करनी है या सबको जाके job करनी है. Do what you want to do, but do it. Don't wait to be asked.
हमें पता नहीं है कि हमें करना क्या है.
Search.
Right.
It's as simple as that. I mean, did you know that you want to do what you're doing, right? But you tried, right?
Yeah.
थोड़े से हाथ पैर मारे. You went from a corporate job into your passion, right? It wasn't easy. But you took the first step. So I feel पहला step ले, नहीं पता कहाँ देखते हैं. So don't say कि पाकिस्तान में opportunity नहीं. I think then the right thing is पाकिस्तान में opportunity कहाँ है? It's the same question.
Yeah.
Your perspective has changed on it, right? So I think if I was giving one advice to young talents in Pakistan, I would say that know your passion. And to know your passion, you'll really have to test a lot of things. So test a lot of things, right? Piche nahi hato. Don't be lazy. Yeah. I think that's something our generation, millennials, were very good at doing. And then, but I think it's becoming bigger in terms of the overall take to say, okay, I'm chill. I think mehnat karo and don't make excuses on that. And I think opportunities आपको मिल जाएंगी. यानी कि अब तो डिजिटल है. हम जब ग्रो करते थे, when we were growing up, honestly speaking, we didn't even know how to use Google properly. Now I think that's not an excuse anymore, right? The world is global. Opportunities are more borderless.
And remote working is
so big, right? So I think, for me, a large part of this is that you need to take an active part in your development. You can't just be handed things. That's life. We all learn it the hard way.
Yeah.
But luckily, we have the opportunity to tell those after us that, that honestly, time na waste karo, kar lo. Jo bhi mil raha hai, kar lo. Experience karo. Or mehnat karo thodi si. I think things work out. But follow your passions and don't think just because one person is doing things one way, Everybody has to follow that
ये
way.
तो वही है ना कि मदीना बिरयानी चल गई तो अब अल मदीना बिरयानी, अल मक्का बिरयानी, वो एक ही जैसी चीज.
Yeah.
सबकी जर्नी अलग है.
So you do you.
Yeah. अभी आपने पैशन की बात की ना, so I think watched a TikTok somewhere, अच्छी वाली TikTok. उसमें यही था कि how to find your passion. तो उसमें ये था कि assume there is a world जहाँ पे there is no money. There is no concept of money, there is no currency, you don't have to like money का concept नहीं है. So like अगर मनी का कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं, दैट मीन्स आपको बिल भी नहीं भरने, आपको ग्रोसरी भी नहीं करनी, आपको स्कूल की फीस भी नहीं भरनी.
True.
What will you do in that world? Right? तो that's your passion.
Yeah, that's true.
तो मैं सबको ये एग्जाम्पल देता हूँ. अभी while you were speaking, you use the word networking. How important it is, and like I know we can't put a number, मगर you know, it's said कि like 90% of the jobs that people secure is through the network. Now, I'm not saying कि लोग सिफारिश करते हैं, and I'm not saying कि सिफारिश नहीं होती. It does exist, but networking helps a lot. So, how important is that in your opinion?
I would have given a different answer if I had not recently researched a bit on this or being trained on this a little bit, right? So, एक ज़माना था when we used to talk about IQ, कि your intelligence matter. Then we spoke about EQ. Your emotional quotient matters, right? Today, standing here, the only thing that the number one talk is how do you manage your RQ, your relationship quotient. Like, you know, so I feel this is becoming more and more important because while access to information is becoming wider, access to people is becoming more wider. I mean to say, look at today's digital platforms versus even 5 years from now, right? Like, you know, but within all of this, are we losing our ability to connect with each other? For sure, yes. Like, you know, so it's a bigger concept. So networking is not just कि मुझे job चाहिए तो मुझे, you know, I need to know somebody. I think networking is your ability to connect at a human level. Like, you know, for you and I to sit together and say, you know, I can see us working together. I had fun. Like, you know, I enjoyed this. You enriched me, or, you know, I can see us working together. So I think networking should be used in that concept for starters. And it's very, very, very important because companies, L'Oreal में हम कहते हैं, companies are not made of walls, etc. Companies are made out of the people. So if people are not able to network with each other, and in the true definition of network is if people are not able to enjoy each other's company or be able to contribute to each other, they're not going to be able to work together. So you're never going to kind of work with people who can't have that ability to be their true selves, to enrich what they're doing together, etc., etc. So I think relationship quotient is very important. Networking is a very, very big piece of it, and it's not about सिफारिशें या जो ज़्यादा बोलता है तो उसका नेटवर्क ज़्यादा होता है. Not really. I think it's about the authenticity of your relationship and how well you connect with people, and that changes from person to person. You could be a very quiet person, you could be a very bubbly person, you could be a very talkative person, you could be a very funny person, but how you make others feel will determine what your networking capability is, right? So I think it's very important to have the human element, especially in the age that the screen age, where you know 4 लोग साथ बैठ के भी hangout is we sit together, but then we're on our phones. Like, you know, it's kind of weird. I'm always having fights with my husband about this कि हम साथ बैठते ही क्यों हैं अगर हमने like, you know, अपना Insta देखना है, but so it's very important. So I think networking के गुड भी है, बैड भी है. नेटवर्किंग की इंटेंशन सी होनी चाहिए, ऑथेंटिसिटी होनी चाहिए, एम्पैथी होनी चाहिए, एंड हाउ यू मेक द अदर पर्सन फील, एंड यू विल सी दैट विल गो अ लॉन्ग वे, like, you know, in terms of how you enrich yourself on your life journey also, like, you know, because you will learn so much from people.
True.
Like, you know.
और आपने भी social engagement की बात की, and that's where universities play a huge role, because the whole idea of university is not just to कि आप ये पढ़ा है और ये आपने एग्जाम दिया और डिग्री ले ली. आपको सोशल कोहेजन वहीं सिखाई जाती है, आपने लोगों के साथ डील कैसे करना है, एंड दैट डिटर्मिन्स कि आपका आगे करियर कितना अच्छा या बुरा होगा बेस्ड ऑन हाउ सोशल यू वर. एंड व्हेन आई से सोशल, आई डोंट मीन कैंटीन में कितना टाइम बैठे, आई मीन हाउ यू वर्क विद ईच अदर, राइट? एंड इन दिस आजकल आपने भी काफ़ी सुना होगा, सब लोग काफ़ी लोग कहते हैं जी यूनिवर्सिटी तो बेकार हैं, ये लो मेरा कोर्स ले लो, घर पे बैठ के पढ़ लो, इतने पैसे कमाओगे. बट दैट्स वेरी डिट्रीमेंटल, बिकॉज अगर ऐसा ही सच होता तो हार्वर्ड भी बंद हो चुकी होती सबसे पहले. सो लाइक प्लीज़ बीइंग समवन हु इज़ अ रिक्रूटर, प्लीज़ समझाएं बच्चों को कि भाई ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ है.
प्लीज बच्चों समझो ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है.
Like इस तरह बिल्कुल you can't null and void universities. I mean,
No, you can't null and void universities, but I think there has to be a balance. I think universities also have to change what they're teaching.
that's true.
Like, I think what worked yesterday does not work today. What is working today will not work tomorrow. Very recently, again, I have the good fortune of seeing the world's best research companies work with L'Oreal, etc. So, in a study with McKinsey, we found out that what you learn in university, if you graduated at the time I did, so 2009, so what you learned in university would last you 20 years. So you could stay in your career and on top of your game. बिकॉज इन्फॉर्मेशन दुनिया में इतने जल्दी चेंज नहीं हो रही थी, तो आपको पता है वो आप यूज़ कर लेंगे, राइट. They said that they did the same study in 2020 and they said that what you learn in university will last you for 4 years.
Wow.
Like, unless...
So by the time you graduate...
By the time you graduate, year one is already redundant because somebody else has trumped it. Like, in terms of knowledge and education. So... a part of me, and this is my opinion, this is not a company's opinion, this is Sanaa's opinion, I feel that universities have to also change the way that they're teaching. I think that is a reformation which is faster again in the West. It is very fast in Europe. I think even Asia is taking a lot of speed. Pakistan may be slower, right? We're still very conventional in the way we want to teach, right? I think students have to learn differently. The second piece is that, of course, but I still feel that what universities offer you is discipline of learning, the ethos in which you learn, right? And the ethos of learning is not necessarily कि एक course instructor है और मैं हूँ, या because course instructors, imagine you teaching a course, it's going to be brilliant, right? Somebody who's a PhD, they have a lot to teach you. You don't know it, right? So with all due respect, that's there. But you also learn from your environment. You also learn from the differences in opinion. Like, and I think this is where some of the good universities in Pakistan, especially business schools, are doing a great job because they're working on areas like how do you tackle diversity in the same classroom? Like, how do you refute each other or agree with each other with being respectful? How do you come to a collective agreement? Like, So I think in all courses, in all walks of life, universities still predominantly are very important for you to become human beings, a social animal. So that's very, very important. But at the same time, मेरा माइक लूज हो गया, नीचे करना है, ये डाल दीजिएगा उसके अंदर, लोगों को पता होना चाहिए पॉडकास्ट लर्निंग, लाइक बट आई थिंक it is important for sure, but it requires change also. That's what I feel. Like, that universities have to evolve with time.
Yeah.
So, for example, the number of courses you can do on Coursera or Khan Academy are brilliant. And if you can't afford the best universities in the world, the content is available for you to study, right?
Yeah.
So, I think format of learning is changing. The concept of university is not changing. Right? University, universe, like, the format of learning has to change. Like, and I think that is where students are giving the right feedback. Because हमारे टाइम के ऊपर, अब आपका मेरा टाइम सेम ही होएगा, राइट? लाइक होपफुली, या मैं आई एम यंगर, लाइक बट आई थिंक हमारे टाइम के ऊपर इतना एक्सेस नहीं था इन्फॉर्मेशन का, राइट? सो वी रियली हैड टू वॉक द रोड टू गो एंड learn, right? Today you can just Google. My son is 5 years old. He's asking Alexa what's 7 plus 2 and writing it in his homework. Like, I mean, he knows if he doesn't, that's cheating. Like, but he knows. He's like, Alexa, what's 7 plus 2? And Alexa is teaching him, right? Like, Alexa, I don't understand how is 7 plus 2, and he knows. So I think formats have to change, but universities have to be used more smartly to learn from those who know better. For sure, with all due respect, that I think is the traditional model, and that stays. But we must broaden the scope to also say that it is about learning through each other. It's about learning new age skills. It's really upgrading the whole system.
True. Yeah. Okay. So ये तो हमने अभी शुरू में resume की बात की. Let's come down to LinkedIn. How important is LinkedIn? Very important. Honestly speaking, I think we live in a social media age. I think anybody who's listening to your podcast has a Facebook account, has a Twitter account, has a LinkedIn account, has an hopefully has a LinkedIn account, let's say that. Hopefully has an Instagram account. And I think you're living in a digital age. Your digital presence is important, and LinkedIn is your ability to sell your brand. Yeah. Like, and I think the older I grow,
to be very honest. The more interested I am in looking at resumes, looking at profiles. Let's be honest, you didn't know me, but your team saw my content on LinkedIn and said that, oh, you have the potential to come to this show. I mean, it's such an honor. Like, but at the same time, LinkedIn is what helped me, right?
Yeah.
LinkedIn is also, I think, it's a very good fraternity of very honest content, giving you very good access to culture on different companies, because not everybody wants to work in the same place, and not every culture is the right culture for you. So it's giving candidates a very, very good sneak peek into what they're signing up for. And it's also giving yourself the opportunity to showcase your talent, right? Like the platform नहीं है. हम कितनी दफ़ा बात करते थे बचपन में, जैसे अभी आपने कहा सिफारशी लोग, like, ये वो. It's a platform. Maybe somebody is getting that interview because they know somebody in the organization. You might get it because the way you sold yourself, or what content you've put up on your LinkedIn is telling a good story too. So at least it will get you the same opportunity. Then how you perform in the opportunity is a different area. So I think LinkedIn is super important. And as a recruiter, and not even as a recruiter, as a human resource director, I am continuously looking at the amazing work some of the people are doing, and I learn so much from it.
Yeah.
Like, because it's a great way to enrich yourself. Okay, you take their ideas, you inspire yourself. I mean, I spend so much time on LinkedIn.
So if I were to DM you on LinkedIn and say, Sanaa, I'm looking for a position in L'Oreal, and you click on my profile और मैं अपनी बारात में बैठा हुआ हूँ, शेरवानी और कुल्ला पहना हुआ है, would you take me seriously?
I would still take you seriously. I think, now there again, will a recruiter take you seriously? Maybe not.
Yeah.
Will Sanaa take you seriously? Maybe yes. Like, because I think people make these honest mistakes a lot. Like, I had a friend who once put happygoat212@hotmail.com. The email account doesn't exist, so it's okay to tell you guys. But that's not a professional business ID, right? We learned it in university कि ऐसे नहीं होना चाहिए. Too cool for you at school. Like, is not the right email address, right? So I think people are learning. And it's good feedback. I think what I've seen with majority of the candidates is that they take the feedback also. Like, abhi, with Gen Zs, I keep telling them that, no, if you want to put up a professional picture, don't wear your sunglasses. I mean to say, like, it's very basic things like that you want to see your picture, but it should be a visually appealing picture for sure. Yeah. Like, And
what about the content of LinkedIn? How important is... what do you do on LinkedIn? You give each other, what's that word?
Recommendations.
And there's one more thing where you... I've been off LinkedIn for so long.
You rate your skills.
Huh? No. If I'm giving you something, I
Endorsement.
Endorsement.
Yeah.
So how important is like एक अच्छा LinkedIn, regardless of कि हम किस position की बात करें, एक हम अगर एक sample LinkedIn का account देखें, profile देखें, what things are you looking for?
This is a very technical question, and I think if you ask the LinkedIn team, they will say all of it is important. Like, your recommendations matter because people do read them. So even if somebody has a recommendation on their LinkedIn, I do read it to say, okay, what did this person have to say about this person, right? And endorsements are important, but I think recruiters are smart to know also कि सारे दोस्तों को team building दे देते हैं, but it is important too. The journey, basically LinkedIn is also your resume. That's very important. But if you ask me honestly, what I look at their posts. Like, what they are sharing. Yeah. Because that is their interest. That is their thought. That is their experience. So where do I spend majority of my time when I am stalking people on LinkedIn? I look at what they have shared. So I am more interested in knowing about them from them as opposed to what others have to say about them. Because I like to make an opinion myself. So which is why I said कि technically, yes, all of it needs to be great. So the more you put in, the more information you share, the more recommendations you have. Yeah, you're strong. You're a good profile, right? Like, so it should get the attention. But if you ask me that where do I most enjoy content, and this is because I like to see the authenticity of the candidates, and L'Oreal generally likes to work with people who are very comfortable in their own skin. I think the best gauge is the posts that you post or you have endorsed or liked.
Like this post if you love Imran Khan.
नहीं शुक्र है ऐसा देखा नहीं. like, but your experiences in a company, your thoughts about culture, like, people post, LinkedIn is quite professional also, by the way. I think it is, people are using it with the right intent in Pakistan, like, so I think I look at the posts and all, like, कि आपने क्या सोचा, और आपने किसी सोच के ऊपर अगर आपने रीशेयर किया, और you commented on it, for me that's important, that's good insight, like, on what you stand for. Which is very important if you want the right people for the right culture.
And then you obviously आप उसको gauge करती है कि okay, this is the culture of my organization, और ये बंदा इसमें fit हो रहा है कि नहीं.
Yeah, like,
that's one way. So like, and is it true कि जो companies हैं, they look up your social media before hiring you, and not just LinkedIn, I'm talking Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. Aajkal, or at least if not in Pakistan, but maybe abroad.
We are not allowed to, so I do not know. So the way I am trained is that social medias are private spaces, like, so my Instagram is quite flowery, like, it's fun, like, but then I'm very professional also. So no, for my team, no, we don't want to go beyond LinkedIn. I think that is respecting the candidate's privacy also. But हो जाता है, यानी कि you have mutual friends with people who you're also interviewing. I think over time you learn to remove that bias. You must remove that bias, right? Because how you are in your personal life and how I hire you for a professional job must differ, like, and so it's very, very important to remove that personal bias, right? I think it's for transparency.
Don't you think sometimes people tend to bring their personal biases in the work culture, और फिर माहौल ख़राब होता है? I mean, खास तौर पे political affiliation, especially in Pakistan. अगर इसकी हम बात करें, I have a friend, he works for a big bank के headquarter पे on Chandigarh Road, and the kind of conversations he tell me जो कि पानी के कूलर के पास होती हैं, वाटर डिस्पेंसर के पास, इज़ अनइमेजिनेबल कि ये इतने हाई लेवल के बैंकर्स की ये सोच है. सो लाइक, डोंट यू थिंक कि आई अंडरस्टैंड फ्रॉम एथिकल स्टैंड पॉइंट लोगों को उतना स्पेस अलाउ करना चाहिए कि लाइक वट एवर देयर इनटू, दैट्स फाइन, मगर फिर यही थॉट प्रोसेस जब ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में आता है, इट कैन ऑल्सो लाइक प्रोड्यूस टॉक्सिसिटी, डोंट यू थिंक?
I think it can, but I will also say that my experience is primarily multinationals, FMCGs, and there are very strict governance. Like this is that part which is a no-go area. Like, because you come to work for a company and they have a very strong environment in which you work in. So your go and no-go areas. So honestly speaking, I've never experienced it. Like, and neither have the people who work with me, because we're smarter than that to know that our political biases, our personal biases have to be kept aside. Do I think it happens? I'm sure it does. Like, so for me to say कि नहीं ये बिल्कुल ही नहीं होता और पता नहीं क्या बातें कर रहे हैं आप, I can't say that. I think as a leader, what I will say is that HR की job is very important here, right? Because you set the tone of the culture.
Yeah.
Like, on what is right and what is celebrated and what is a no-go zone. So I think that is very important, right? That, okay, what is this company about? Like, so the fabric of this company is what? So I think human resources and leadership particularly dictates what can be openly discussed and where your personal views should not be discussed in a place like your workplace, like, So it doesn't happen where I worked or are working. Do I think it happens? Most probably. How do you control it? I think, the role of human resources, but also the role of leaders and conscious leadership is very, very important, right? Because, I mean, it's a very personal thing.
All right, so we've covered resume, LinkedIn. अब आता है job interview. And before we started recording, you said कि पहले 30 सेकंड में normally, not just you, normally decision ले लिया जाता है कि इसको हमने रखना है नहीं रखना.
That's called a recruiter bias. I mean to say, over time, I've had 12 years of working experience of recruiting. I'm over the bias completely now, which is why I can speak so openly about it. But yes, it is a bias that recruiters must learn. Whether it's and a recruiter, I don't mean HR. I mean HR and lines, like, business also. They must learn to overcome. Like, because it is true that if you and I have very similar personalities, would you and I not like each other and say, oh, you are good, I'm good? Because we have similar opinions, right? Like, it's human biasness that comes into the process. The right way to remove that biasness is to really know the hiring philosophy of the company. Behavioral competencies का एक concept है, which is that how do you behave in specific situations, and a majority of FMCGs, MNCs have a very strong understanding of the right behaviors in a workplace, right? So they will always ask you questions in order to gauge that if given a situation like this, how did you react? And from that reaction, because these are live examples of how you behave, they're able to tell that whether you are the right fit for them and whether they are the right fit for you. I always say in a recruitment interview, it's not just the recruiter deciding कि आप मेरी company में काम कर सकते हैं कि नहीं. Candidates भी decide कर रहे होते हैं कि do they want to work for you even? Like, are they excited about this prospect, right? But the right question set, which is under the competency framework. This is a technical term, behavioral competency assessment. But what it helps you to do is to not take the person's opinions into matter, but actual factual things that have happened. So even for young students, you said, agar make advice to on how to stand out. I would say that when you appear in an interview, have a lot of examples. That, and how are you going to create examples of, say, for example, my toughest leadership decision, or the time when there was a conflict and I helped resolve it. What was my strategy? You will have nothing to say if you've not experienced it in your early years at university or in school for that matter, right? Which is why you are eventually a product of your experiences. So enriching them is very, very important. And in an interview, the more experiences you share, which are factually correct, are honest, I think it is easy for any recruiter, whether it's a business recruiter or an HR recruiter, to see whether you're the right fit for their company, and for you to also assess based on their reaction whether this is a company that you want to work for, because recruitment is a two-way street. It's not a one-way street.
Absolutely. So you've worked for MNCs throughout your career. So I'm sure the kind of candidates you get, unko thoda bahut exposure hoga about how to appear in an interview.
Of course.
But there's a huge majority of people जिनको business communication के तौर तरीके नहीं पता, और जिसमें बहुत बड़ा factor है how to appear, like what to wear, how to dress up for an interview. Again, इसमें कुछ लोग बोलेंगे अब तो वो corporate दौर चला गया, अब तो हम shorts में billionaire हैं. I mean, like, उनकी बात नहीं कर रहा, but traditional जो है, people don't realize what's the perfect appearance or like a more suitable appearance in your opinion.
I think it depends upon the nature of the industry.
Okay.
Like, for starters, you should know your audience.
Sure.
I mean, you've done stand-up. You know your audience,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes you're going and doing stand-up for under 15.
Yeah.
Sometimes you only have adults. Like,
Yeah.
The kind of content that you would create would be very different for both, right?
Sure.
So in an interview, exactly the same. You need to know your audience. You need to research the company, and I think that is one thing that even that we're not investing time in. Like I said, हम lazy approach है candidates की हो जाती है कभी-कभी, which you should overcome. Which is that research the company, know their culture, and know their value system, know their mission and purpose, and that will totally tell you, okay, how should I appear in the interview. So yeah, if you're appearing in a tech startup interview, most probably, I'm not saying that this is the startup culture, it's just an example. If you're appearing for an interview with a consultancy firm, consultants dress a particular way because that's a norm, like, but if you work at L'Oreal, you wear smart casual. Bankers are known to wear suits, like, so, but उनका culture है, उनका एक purpose है, उनका एक client servicing approach है. You must research, know your audience. I would say that. So there is no perfect answer to this. I mean, to say I wear jeans to work, I've come here looking like this, like, but I think you just need to know where are you appearing, what is your audience. You can really gauge a lot about your audience by just looking at the company website. I mean, to say they have enough pictures of their employees floating around. I mean, there's your cue, how to dress. It's as simple as that. Use these cues. Be smart. Like, be smart.
And like, so I've done this questionnaire on my Instagram some time ago. उसमें मैंने ये चीज़ें पूछी थी. So like, कि लोगों को क्या-क्या problems आती हैं. So one of the problems they said they face is because a lot of, खास तौर पे मर्द हजरात, they're coming from all boys school, all boys college. तो उनका इतना फीमेल इंटरेक्शन होता ही नहीं है. और ऐसी भी सिचुएशंस हुई है कि 3 ख़वातीन इंटरव्यू ले रही, अब वो बंदा घबरा रहा है, राइट? अब उस पर कंपनी का तो कोई कसूर नहीं है, ही शुड बी लाइक वेल प्रिपेयर्ड. बट व्हाट आर दोज ट्रेड्स, खास तौर पे कॉन्फिडेंस लेवल की अगर हम बात करें. अब अ पर्सन कैन बी लाइक अ परफेक्ट कैंडिडेट ऑन पेपर, बट लाइक अगर उसकी सेल्स की जॉब है या कंसल्टेंसी की जॉब है और वो आई कॉन्टैक्ट ही नहीं मेंटेन कर पा रहा, या वो इधर उधर देख रहा है, या उसकी इनन्सिएशंस क्लियर नहीं है, या वो कर रहा है, या फिर उसका पोस्चर सही नहीं है, या वो बड़ा लेड बैक है. What things are you looking for in that non-verbal communication?
Good question. I
I've
think,
done my homework.
yeah, for sure. I'll answer it 2 ways. Because I think that you said not demystify HR. So I will also want to do that. I think जब एक candidate एक interview के लिए आया, मैं अभी यहाँ पे podcast के लिए आया, I'm nervous. But it's your job to make me comfortable, to be able to talk to you more openly, to give you answers that are truly me, as opposed to say what is politically correct, right? I think recruitment is very similar like that. Like, it is the job of a recruiter to make a person feel comfortable and confident, right? So पहले तो I would say कि किसी को advice कर दूँ मैं, I take that responsibility that if somebody is nervous, my job is to ensure that they're not nervous even before I start interviewing them. I think that is the job of the company, right? The same favor we would ask from you or anybody else, right? As far as a candidate, like say for example कि मैं बहुत अच्छी recruiter हूँ और मैं welcoming भी हूँ, मैं intimidating भी नहीं हूँ, आप stutter कर रहे थे, मैंने आपको पानी भी पिला दिया, आपके बच्चों का हाल भी पूछ लिया, things are normal, but you still like, you're not in your zone. In that case, I would say the candidate needs more preparation. It's only indicative of the fact that you were not prepared for the experience that you were about to have.
Yeah.
So I think when you go prepared for any interview, or you go prepared for anything in your life for that matter, you have that confidence to say, I can. Like, so I think what we need to do is that my advice would be that be prepared. Like, how do you get prepared? Now, that's a good question also, which I'll ask myself and I'll answer myself. ठीक है? So, how do you get prepared is like I said, कि बहुत लोग होते हैं वो आपके पास आते हैं और उनको आपकी कंपनी के ब्रांड्स भी नहीं पता होते. Like, they don't know. Like, what you sell, and they're shocked to know कि अच्छा ये आपका है. They're confusing you with a competitor, etc., right? I've done that in my internship interview.
Okay.
I told one leading FMCG that I love this brand which belonged to another FMCG, right? Like,
Wow.
it was poor homework. Do your homework right. Like, so know your company.
Website chart लो पूरी.
हाँ, for sure. Website क्या, अब तो website का ज़माना भी खत्म. उनका Instagram देखो, उनके recruiter की LinkedIn देखो भाई. Like, पता होना चाहिए who you getting interviewed by. Do your homework. I'm very fortunate that a lot of people I interview, they've already seen my LinkedIn profile, etc. They're great at making conversation with me even before I make conversation with them. Those are the best kind of candidates because they've done their homework. Doing your homework prepares you well, which makes you less anxious in an interview, right? That is one. There's another advice I learned at NAST, which is probably something I think was the best advice I got. You should know your elevator speech because any interview, 90% of the time, I would say, will start with, so tell me about yourself, take me over your resume, like, very introductory level question hoega, right? If you can master that pitch, you can actually land the conversation at a point where the interviewer will ask you a question that you've already prepared for. So, for example, you ask me, okay, Sana, tell me about yourself. मैं आपको अपनी पूरी history सुना देती हूँ कि मैं कितनी great हूँ. लेकिन मैं आखिर में कहती हूँ, I love a game of tennis. Like, naturally, I'm just giving you an idea, 60-50%, what would you ask? Your next question would be what?
Who's your favorite player?
Who's your favorite player?
Roger Federer.
Like,
And
then you will, what do you like about Roger? Like, or you'll say, okay, why do you like tennis? Like, and you will start talking about your passion. And I think this was one of the best things we were taught in university. Like, that if you have the right elevator pitch and you know your passions and you format it correctly, you can direct the conversation that your recruiter or interviewer is taking you into. And this is no manipulation, to be very honest, because you've given them an opening, an access. To talk to you more personally, as opposed to stick to a list of questions कि मैं यही पूछूंगा.
Robotic नहीं होना
robotic
चाहिए.
नहीं होएगा, right? And when जब एक question answer round एक conversation बन जाता है, तो you are able to assess the person better. The person is able to talk to you more freely and able to assess you better as well.
Very comfort level ban jata hai.
The overall experience is rich for both the candidate and the recruiter. Like, so I think do your research, have your elevator pitch, know how you want to format and structure it. So you do end up in a way that you give the recruiter a little bit of insight on what they can ask you next in order to gauge whatever they need to gauge. They will do that part. Yeah. But at least you've given them an access on doing it in a way where you have strengths. Do you get?
So I used to do...
I hope it helped you.
So I used to do this one thing. So have you seen there's something about Mary? No. Cameron Diaz ki...
I've seen it. Yeah, it's a movie.
Yeah. So usme, if you remember... Bollywood also copied it, of course. तो उसमें जो Matt Dillon होता है, who's a private detective, उसको Ben Stiller hire करता है कि she's my high school crush and you need to spy on her and tell me what she likes, etc. So he ends up having a crush on her, and he realizes कि उसको architects पसंद है, तो वो उसके सामने से ही अपनी गाड़ी का बूट खोलता है तो बहुत सारे blueprints गिर रहे होते हैं. So like वो एक conversation starter बना लेता है. So I would so this one time I did this back in Dubai. I looked up my possible recruiter because मैं LinkedIn पे देख लिया था. I found out about their interest और फिर मैंने बोला कि हाँ मुझे भी ये चीज़ें पसंद हैं. So like they were like, oh really, you like these things? Obviously उस वक्त stalking culture इतना common नहीं था because of Instagram. It wasn't that common. I'm talking 2014. It was there but like not to that degree. So उससे मुझे फ़ायदा ये हुआ था कि I knew their interest level kahan hai, and then we were able to form a friendship.
Yeah, and it has to be authentic. I'm not saying use it in order to manipulate the bichara recruiter also ke wo ke ho, because I know recruiters are really smart.
I know what you did last summer. You don't want to do that, right?
So you have to be authentic, but not match their interests. I would just say ke know yourself better. Present yourself better. You're a brand, right? Like मैंने शुरू में भी कहा कि you are not don't be a commodity, be a product. Be a brand that people want to buy. Like, as weird as it may sound, but I hope you get the drift. So it is very important that you're able to explain yourself better. Like, your interests better. So that the other person naturally has an access to you to get to know you better, right? 30 minutes होते हैं interview, 45 minutes हो जाएंगे, like 1 घंटा हो जाएगा. You have your whole life story to tell. So use it wisely.
Do you sometimes figure out that this person is so bullshitting me right now?
Of course. All the time. All the time. And that's another, I think, demystifying human resources and recruitment and leadership also. Because the interviews, leaders, business वाले भी करते हैं, HR वाले भी करते हैं, साथ हर decision साथ ही होता है. और दोनों की equal weight ही होता है. Contrary to popular opinion also. HR is very powerful in most companies. You're trained. You're trained to see obvious because they will ask you the same question 20 times. You won't even realize it. Like, so they are able to, they're quite investigative in their approach also because that is their job to find the right people and the right fits for their company and their culture.
And there's a lot of cost involved in hiring, filling up a position. So like you don't want to mess up because you also have to report to.
True. There's no free pass, right?
Yeah.
So it is important that you're just honest. If you don't know something, say, I don't know it.
Yeah.
It's better to say than to make up a story because chances are, and the same question can be asked 10 times over. The same story can be asked 4 times over because majority of the recruitments in places where I work, they're panels. Like, so you go through one level to another level. So they're comparing notes continuously to say, okay, I was able to gauge this, but here are 3 things that you can check. So it's teamwork on the other side as well. So no, be very honest. That's one advice I would give. Authenticity के foundation के ऊपर है honesty. So honest ho, you will automatically experience how positive these conversations can be for you also, not just for the company that you're wanting to work at.
What's the perfect answer of tell us about yourself?
To tell them about yourself.
Like, where do I start?
Well, that depends upon your personality.
Tell me something about yourself, Sanaa.
I always start with saying I'm a mother and a dog lover.
Okay.
And I say I have 12 years of work experience. I've done marketing, I've done HR, I've done finance, etc., right? I think the story will change also on day-to-day basis, right? Like, there is no perfect answer, but like I said, कि अपनी elevator pitch आनी चाहिए. Like, that what is it that you want them to know?
What kind of dogs do you like?
Maltese, like, Labradoodle, small dogs. Karachi hai, ghar chote hain, chote kutte, like, so I love dogs. I really love dogs.
Interesting. Acha, most important question, जो कि I'm pretty sure बहुत से लोग बहुत देर से wait कर रहे होंगे. How do we negotiate a salary?
Yeah, this one is tricky.
Like, it's the trickiest thing. कि like, should we? So like, जब आप पूछती हैं, how much are you expecting for this position?
I don't ask.
You don't ask. Normally जो पूछा जाता है, let's just do that.
Yeah.
उसमें क्या कहना चाहिए? Because I don't want to undersell and I don't want to oversell as well. So like मुझे ये होता है कि यार अगर मैंने इनको बोले इतने पैसे और इनका मूड ज़्यादा का हुआ तो वो नुकसान है, या मैं इतने ज़्यादा ना बोल दूँ कि कहें यार नहीं वो वाला दूसरा सही है.
No, I think you should say I'll assess the offer. Like, if you have an expectation, then give the expectation.
Okay.
Like, I think if you, and the more senior you go in your career, the more confident you will be to give an expectation, because by that time, you know your peers, you know the market, you know your worth, you have enough examples to say, I can do this for you, right? Like, so the more up you go, I've noticed that the more mature and open these conversations are. Like, where you will say, this is the range where I will be operating in, but isse niche nahi, I cannot work, right? If you're early on in your career, if you're very young, I think you should use your CDC's career counseling services in your universities to say, us saal ka graduate entry level ke upar, what's a good salary? They know, because ye to data is available to the companies and available to the universities as well. And then gauge where you want to operate comfortably. If you are open and you're not really sure, but you're looking for a good jump, like, you're looking for a decent income bracket because you have certain ambitions, aspirations, lifestyle, etc. I think if somebody asks you your expectations, you should say, what's the salary range on your position? Throw it back. If you don't know, ask. And what you don't know, always ask.
Sorry.
Like, and if you have an answer, then give. Because you know already कि अगर मुझे इससे नीचे मिलेगा, if you're very sure, then you know कि इससे नीचे तो मैंने जाना नहीं है, right? So as a result of it, might as well tell them, like, do HR a favor too. To tell them कि भाई, this is where I'm playing. Like, so if you have an answer, give it honestly. Be confident. If you don't know, ask them for the range and see if it works for you. And on that range, of course, you will do your own analysis to say, this is what I'm drawing currently. This is what the market is drawing. The company will, of course, explain to you why they're offering a particular range, etc., etc. This is a very, very, very tricky area altogether. I think so. I don't have any advices. I think it's experience to experience, person to person. But to be very honest, I think so. If you ask me, human resources is really trying to build more transparency in data. Because I don't think you can work without it anymore.
Sure.
Because this is the age of information sharing. So I think a lot of companies are now a lot more positive to say, ये market की ये percentiles हैं, ये 25th percentile है, ये 75th है. This is where we operate in terms of our talent. At least at L'Oreal, we're very open. So as a result of that, I think so a lot more data sharing is being done with the candidates to empower their decision. And a lot more data is available for candidates to research. Which is why I said कि lazy नहीं होना यार.
सही. अच्छा, मुझे एक बात बताएं. I know it's a very subjective question and it varies from person to person, organization to organization. Let's say there's a situation जहाँ पे पैसे इतने नहीं है, but company अच्छी है, बड़ी है और growth मिल सकती है. या फिर एक ऐसी जगह है कि जहाँ पे पैसे अच्छे हैं, but growth जो है बड़ी static है. आप organogram में फंसे रहेंगे. बंदे को क्या देखना चाहिए in your experience, of course?
In my experience, so I will always choose growth, career, an enriched environment to work in, because what I have realized is that no matter how much money you earn, you want more.
Yeah.
Like, so, or at least I do. कल मुझे पूरा पाकिस्तान कहते not us. So I'll be like, oh no. I do at least. Like, when I was earning, I started my career with a very, very, very small salary. I will tell you what it was, 25,000 rupees, right? So वो भी काफ़ी था, by the way. Like, I'm 12 years into my career, I'm earning something very different. But I still feel I can earn more. Like, but versus 25,000, I'm earning a lot today, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I feel you always want more. And I would choose based on my experience of how I like to work, and also a lot of the people who I met along my career. I think everybody chooses, they realize that purpose passion, work environment, and culture is more important than the salary, because you have to deal with that every day. Like, you know, so what's the faida of you having a great salary but you're miserable every day? No point, right? So for me, honestly speaking, with all due respect, it is the former. However, then I would say, okay, you know your personal situations best too. Like, you know, for some people, you have this liberty key. You can say, I choose culture, I choose a purpose, I choose growth, I choose taking a risk. Not everybody is also that lucky. So I think you should assess your personal situation and see what works best. But if your personal situation is fine, choose where you'll be happy and you're excited to go every day. अगर रोज उठ के you are saying मैंने काम पे नहीं जाना, so you won't do well anyway. Like, you know, and you'll be miserable no matter how much money you make. You won't be happy. So I think it's important to choose and do what you love doing, you enjoy doing. It's a lot more meaningful.
Achha, what are the questions that a candidate should ask the recruiter? So like in my experience, I always used to ask about, okay, what's your culture like? And where will I be placed in the organogram, and where, like, what's the growth chart that you have?
These are great questions. I think so. I think you are good at the interviewing the recruiter part. Like, you know, so I think I do not know. I think it's, again, like I said, कि हर candidate की story बड़ी different होती है, perspective बड़ा different होता है. But I can tell you common questions that are asked. That
ज़रूरी questions कौन से हैं
जो पूछने चाहिए? I think growth, your career. Like, you know, how does my career grow from this role? Like, you know, I think that is very important, because अभी ये रोल बहुत एक्साइटिंग लग रहा है, 6 महीने में वही रोल एक्साइटिंग शायद ना लगे, because you're mastering it, you're moving, you're comfortable with it, etc., right? So how does my career grow is a very, very important question. Like, you know, you should choose a company that's giving you growth, giving you learning, it's giving you skill enhancement, right? The second question I would ask is, organograms, I don't think you're asking because you want to know how senior or junior you want to see what is the structure and support network. Basically. I think that is also very, very important, however you want to structure the question. Culture is very, very important too, I think so. So I would say that you're asking the right questions. What matters is, how is my career trajectory, and am I going to enjoy working here every day? Like, you know, and I think these are two things that recruiters can give you really, really, really good insight on to decide.
And don't you think it's a very off-putting जब लोग पूछते हैं कि छुट्टियाँ कितनी होती हैं?
नहीं, बिल्कुल भी नहीं. अगर आप अच्छी कंपनी में काम करते हैं, वो तो चाहते हैं कि आप पूछें ताकि they can advertise the way they are working for, like, I mean, at L'Oreal, we are very proud that we give 30 annual leaves, and, you know, we do mental health days together as a company. So we take 4 holidays, and all of us take holidays together. Like, you know, our public holidays are, if they come on a weekend, their weekdays. I mean, I don't want, देखिए मैंने अभी भी जल्दी एडवर्टाइज कर दिया L'Oreal को, तो नहीं, these are not off-putting questions at all. It's good to know. These are actually perks and benefits के अंदर आती हैं ये चीज़ें, तो ज़रूर पूछे.
All right, so now the person is hired, he or she is working in the company. What can they expect from HR?
Everything. HR is your best friend.
Is it?
It is.
पुलिस वाले नहीं होते HR वाले?
नहीं, I think ये भी बड़ी myth है. I think it's a nice question. HR is very central to business. People don't realize that. Like, you know, business tells you what to do. HR का जो function है ना, यानी कि in its entirety, it enables the how. Right? So when you're new to a company, you're hired because you have the skill. So you are most probably capable of doing the job. Right? But you're doing it in a very different environment. It is not your native environment. So I think how HR can help new joiners is that they can help the employee integrate better into the company, right? So because they're teaching you the hows of the company. Because you've come into a culture, like, you know, you've come into an environment of sorts, right? जिधर अपने laws or laws तो नहीं कहना चाहिए, but there are, rules of the jungle, like,
Yeah.
that you're operating in. So HR is very, very important for new joiners because they help them integrate. They're also very important because they help you navigate the network. We spoke about network. There is no better person than HR to know the network of the organization on who can help. So I think HR, human resources job is integration. It's the networking piece. It's the and for sure, I think so. If there is one more thing I would add to this, it would be helping you where you need help, because they are not directly involved in the business, right? So they can be your very good friends to say, I don't know how to. Who can teach me? Or I don't have the skills to do this. How can I upskill? So they really enrich you, and that is why you've gone to this company, right? Like when you change your job, or when you even start a job, you are of course going to work for the company, and you're going to do the job description, tasks of the job, but the company must offer you some return. Otherwise why would you work there other than your salary? Of course, you're not a machine, right? Like, so there is enrichment, there is upskilling, there is training, there is integration, there is engagement. Do I love working in the place that I do? There is enablement. Do I have enough tools to do my job? Do I have enough skills to do my job? HR is very integral. So I think it's very, very, very important to leverage your HR resources the right way.
In such a strict, not strict, but like sometimes demanding work culture, लोग वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस को कैसे मेंटेन करें?
Your choice. To be very honest, I think work life balance जो होता है ना, वो मुझे लगता है फैक्ट्री में होता है. 9 बजे शुरू होता है, 5 बजे क्लॉक आउट करते हैं. Corporate cultures are not like that anymore. They're all about integration, and I strongly believe in that too. I have a very full life, alhamdulillah. I'm a wife, I'm a husband. I'm a husband. I have a husband.
Okay.
I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I'm a daughter. I'm an HRD. I'm a friend. I'm a social animal. I play tennis, etc., right? Work-life balance का अगर आप कॉन्सेप्ट अप्लाई करेंगे ना, तो शायद आप डिसअपॉइंट हुए थोड़ा सा, बिकॉज देयर इज नो सच थिंग इज बैलेंस, राइट? व्हाट यू कैन डू इज दैट यू कैन इंटीग्रेट, and I think people should strive for that, right? So you do what you need to do when you need to do it. So इस तरह का मैं एग्जाम्पल दे देती हूँ that when my son was smaller, I had to pick him up from the daycare at 4:30 because daycare बंद हो जाता है उसके बाद, and I wanted to make sure कि I pick him up जब सूरज होए, राइट? तो आई यूज टू पिक हिम अप एट 4:30, बट ऑफिस के ऑफिशियल टाइमिंग्स है 9 to 6, राइट? तो इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि अगर इफ आई पिक हिम अप एट 4:30 एंड वी वुड गो होम, आई वुड प्ले विद हिम, आई वुड डू हिज डिनर, बट बाय द टाइम ही वुड स्लीप इट विल बी 8 o'clock. So but between 8 and 9, if I check my emails, what's the big deal? Like, but somebody who is at home, who's been at work the whole day, when I email him or email her at 9 p.m., do I expect a reply at 9 p.m.? No, because they will see it the next day. So I think a lot of the corporations are now saying that you balance what you need to do. Like, and that's fine. But you have to juggle the balls by integration. So you do what you need to do when you need to do it. And that's it. Like, balance ढूंढना चाहें तो थोड़ा सा मुश्किल है, because
you have to find your ways around.
You have to find, I mean, that is my experience at least, that you have to find your ways around, because in balance you will always feel one is because फिर कुछ ना कुछ रह ही जाएगा, मुझे लगता है at least. Like, and you will never, there are days when I really need to work. Let me give it to you like this. कुछ दिन होते हैं जैसे I have to work on a presentation, or I have to finalize L'Oreal's budget or whatever. I need 2 days. I can't be a mom that day, right? Like, so my husband takes over for me. But because I worked 2 days straight, मैंने स्कूल से नहीं पिक किया, मैं किसी प्ले डेट पे नहीं गई, whatever, मैं रात को हैंग आउट नहीं किया दोस्तों के साथ. So the third day I take it chill. I come home at 3, 4, like, I go out, I do my groceries, I take my son to the park, I hang out with my friends, and it's fine. Because both things are done. Like, so I'm less frustrated also then, right? Because I got to do both. So I think I'm very fortunate to work in a company that allows that kind of freedom and flexibility. But even if you don't have it, try to find ways around it. Because balance to thoda sa mushkil hai. I feel at least.
Right. What are your thoughts on remote working? You think
I
it's
love
working?
it.
Of course you love it, but like, do you think from an HR standpoint, do you think it's working?
हाँ, I love it भाई, मुझे बड़ा मजा आता
आपको तो आएगा of
हाँ
course.
नहीं
You're fired.
नहीं, हम फायर नहीं कर सकते भाई, यानी कि ये भी बड़ा मुश्किल है. इसके ऊपर एक अलग पॉडकास्ट होना चाहिए कि कैन यू फायर पीपल, लाइक यू नो. बट नो, आई थिंक सो कोविड taught us one thing, and it taught us really well. हमारे अपने preconceived notions हैं that you know that we can't work together unless and until we're sitting on the same table. I think for 2 years straight we worked out of home. We saw the advantages of working from home, and we also saw the advantages of being in a space. You said it yourself अभी in the when you were talking about university कि नहीं भाई वो social interaction important है, because आप वो social interaction से भी बहुत सीखते हो, right? So the concept, by the way, that L'Oreal is also using, it's called BOB. Okay. Best of both worlds, like you know. So I think that is the best way forward. That you mix agility with in office work hours, like you know. So we do 3-2. So 3 days we are at the office, 2 days we are working from home, and how we split it is that 2 days when we are at home we actually do what we need to do. But the 3 days we're at the office, we are social animals to say that whatever we need to think together, problem solve together, collaborate together, हम उसके ऊपर काम करते हैं. So I think work from home is very good for solo tasks, for focus and individuals. So we really enjoyed it. And of course, working together in an office, when you go back after COVID, we realized how much we missed each other and how productive it was to just see people, because decisions are made faster, ideas are coming more effectively. You remembered why you like working at the company that you do, because the in-person interaction was very different, right? Like, you know, lunches came back and hasi mazak came back and all of that, right? So today, I think so, the future of work is essentially best of both worlds. Like, you know, you need to balance both. So, but I'm a big fan.
Interesting. Asha, tell me one thing. Some work environments are extremely toxic, right? So, as an HR, is it HR's job to identify it themselves, or do they wait कि कोई आके complain करे तो हम action लें?
नहीं, it is HR's job, absolutely. You are a culture enabler. Which is why I said the HR is very integral to business, because the business is telling you what the business strategy is, and HR has the expertise to tell you what your people's strategy is going to be, right? That how are you going to mobilize all the people who work for you and make them passionate about achieving the objectives, right? So culture is a big piece of how you achieve your goals. So I think HR has to be very proactive on ensuring that the right culture exists, the optimum environment exists for people to truly thrive, for people to truly excel, for people to be very much in love with what they do, because when people like what they do really well. Like, you know, and to like something, you want to be in an environment that you also like. So I don't think so HR should just be, it's not a complain khana. नहीं है ना साइकोलॉजिस्ट्स हैं, ना थेरेपिस्ट हैं, ना कंप्लेन घर हैं, राइट? HR is very critical to being a very proactive player in ensuring the right enablement and the right engagement in the work organization for us to achieve our business objectives. That's what I think.
What's the effective way to fire a person?
By being honest.
And is it true कि उनको Friday को करना चाहिए?
No, why? Why do you want to ruin the weekend?
I heard it in a movie. Fridays are the best day to fire someone because they have like weekend to look forward to. तो वो थोड़ा सा होता है कि चलो चिलेंगे.
अगर वो उनका weekend बहुत कोई अच्छी यानी कि वो हर weekend लंदन जा सकती है ना प्राइवेट जेट प्लेन, I'm sure they're thinking less about it. अगर उन्हें घर आना है तो I don't know. No, I don't think there's any right day or right time to fire somebody. It's always misfortunate when somebody is let go of. I think in my experience, at least, again, I would say that what people have appreciated is the honesty. Don't play games. I think that's about it. It's a conversation between two mature adults based on facts. Like, you know, so what is important is that whoever you're letting go of, मेरा तो कहते हुए भी मुझे sad लग रहा है, but whoever you're letting go of, you owe them honesty on why, ताकि they can get closure on the situation. I think that's about it. Days, etc. I mean, I wouldn't notice it, but yeah, I mean, it's good to be mindful of it, like, you know, but I do not know if Monday is better than a Friday. Like, I can't say that. But yeah, you should be mindful of the circumstances, the environment, but I think honesty is very important.
The movie I heard it in was Office Space, and I love that movie. And it's one of the movies that shaped me into becoming who I am, because it's about this software engineer hating the cubicle life and 9 to 5 life, और so उसमें they hire, like the company hire consultants जो कि review करेंगे, and then उसमें वो ये कहते हैं कि it's the chances of conflict are lesser on a Friday statistically. So that's why वो फिर लोगों को Friday
Because people are just in their weekend vibe. Weekend vibe is a real thing. I am always in my weekend vibe. To be very honest. मेरी vibe Monday से शुरू हो जाती है, Friday को finally अचीव हो जाती है. But so maybe I cannot relate. But yeah, I mean that वही मैं कहना कि वो तो different circumstantial है, यानी कि which day you choose and all. But I think so what is important is honesty of the conversation, and I think people really respect that.
So you've been the George Clooney of Up in the Air.
I'm sure. I will not accept or deny, like, you know. But no, I think honesty really matters. I think people value honesty.
That's important.
Yeah.
अच्छा, so like जितने भी लोग सुन रहे हैं, people who aspire to be in the HR role in future, what are the things they should be looking at? What are the podcasts they should be listening to? What's the literature they should be reading? Anything, any recommendation?
I can
HR influencers होते हैं? I'm sure
HR
होते ही
influencers
होते
होते हैं. All leaders are great HR influencers. What is HR? HR is people management. It's people leadership. So HR doesn't work in silo. It works in very, very close proximity to how leaders behave, right? Your job is to inspire people to give their best.
Do HR people always have to be extrovert?
No.
Are there introvert HR
I'm
personnel?
sure. I'm not one of them.
Yeah.
So मैं ये नहीं बड़े confidently कह सकती नहीं मुझे नहीं पता क्योंकि I think I come out as an extrovert, but I am an extroverted introvert, by the way.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if that makes sense also, but I am very shy. And contrary to popular belief, I don't like talking. But when I talk, then I talk a lot. Like, you know, so बड़ा conflict है ये तो मेरे अंदर, लेकिन no, HR I think requires empathy and passion for people more so than गप्पे लगाने की ability, right?
Yeah.
So HR is all about your passion for people. It's empathy in order to understand the perspectives on the table. And I think what has made me love HR is my proximity to business. And I think this is a myth I would really want to debunk कि HR के लोगों को business का नहीं पता होता. HR के लोगों को अगर business नहीं आता वो HR कैसे कर सकते हैं? So I really feel that if I was talking to anybody who is aspiring for an HR career, I would strongly recommend that they need to learn their business first. Because you can't run the people strategy of a company.
What business? Because they can be going into any organization or any industry. So business in particular?
No, I mean the business of the place where they're working.
Okay.
Like, you know, for sure. So you need to know. For example, if say...
if you're in a petroleum company.
Example, you're in a petrol. So you should know how excavation happens and, you know, the entire process of it. You need to know the nuts and bolts. Because if you don't know that, how are you going to relate to the person and how are you going to see कि उसके business में मसला क्या है and how can you give solutions to it, right? So I do feel that to be a great HR person, it is very important to know your business inside out. Like, you know, and which is why I think throughout the podcast, I said that HR is very, very in close coordination with business and with leadership, because your job is to look at the same problem or a challenge. I won't use the word problem, but a challenge with a different perspective. Like, you know, your perspective is people. And how do you leverage the capability of everybody around to help move things forward? And a business leader who's, say, an expert in finance is looking at the P&L and the cost. And, say, a marketer is looking at the brand. But together, when you are all enriched in understanding the true challenge, you're able to give better solutions.
And how important it is for an HR personnel to be unbiased?
Very important. Of course, your entire currency is trust. Like, you know, what makes a great HR leader, if you ask me, is the ability of their organization to trust them, that you have the people perspective in mind, the people quotient in mind, right? So if you're biased, it won't happen. Like, you know, you have to gain the trust of the organization to do this job, because you don't have financial numbers of consolidated sales. Mera target to nahi hai, to be very honest, right? Like, you know, so how will I tell I'm great? So your trust quotient is very important, because if people don't trust you, they're not going to come to you. And if they're not going to come to you and they're not going to give you an inclusive seat on the table, you will be very limited. I mean, you can force yourself, but again, when has that ever worked? Like, you know, so...
And how can HR intervene or maybe not intervene, but at least say if there's office politics going on, which is very rampant. So how can they effectively counter that?
By calling it out. I think, again, my advice seems very simple because
but
it
let's
comes
say if
from
it's happening at a very senior level.
By calling it out, there is enough, like I said, organization.
What's the HR's power? Like, can they call out a president?
Yeah, in our case, for sure.
Okay.
But that's what I said, that maybe I'm trying to relate more at a generic level to the challenge. But I think HR's job is to ensure that this doesn't happen. Because every company, चाहे वो इतनी छोटी हो या वो बहुत बड़ी हो, like, each company has a culture. Like, it stands for certain values, it stands for a mission, it has certain ways of work. The job of HR is to ensure that this ethos is protected, right? Like, so in case something is putting it at risk, that is your job. But it is not just the job of HR. Leadership's job, the CEO's job, the director's jobs, the top brass. And सिर्फ title का issue नहीं है. I think अगर आप leader हो ना, so you will stand up for what's right. It's as simple as that. So I don't even, मैं जब आपसे बात करते करते I'm thinking about it. I think no, even if I was not in HR and if I didn't agree with something, I would stand up for it. Like, that's your own personal value system also, no?
But also, don't you think a person calling out something would also pretty much put their job at risk?
No, not really. Again, maybe I'm coming from a very privileged environment where there are very, very strict controls, very strict policies, a lot of a lot of safe networks built in order to make sure that the right platforms exist. So, in my experience, no, nobody ever risks their job by asking the right questions. It's good to ask questions. In my opinion, if the answers you hear you don't like, well, there is a choice you need to make. Like I said, you asked me which place would I prefer to work, and I said I would like to work in a place that has the same value set, culture, environment in which I thrive in. Like, so I think on a Sanaa level advice as opposed to where I work or whatever, I would say the choice is yours. HR or no HR, you choose your own value system. Like, and you do what is right. The rest, I think, works out beautifully, one way or the other. The universe kind of conspires around it.
So it's like, for example, a candidate must thoroughly do their homework. And like, there's only speculation you can make about the culture, environment. There's only so much you can know by meeting them. And there's only one way to find out. So there's no set formula.
There is, to be very honest, Junaid. The world is really evolved now. So you can find out through what their employees are posting online, on LinkedIn. Like, you can find out through Glassdoor ratings what the company culture is like. Because employees are, like, people are sharing their experiences about work environments, etc. You can ask your network of friends. You can ask your university alumni working there. There is Instagram, which is giving you an understanding of their company. There is LinkedIn content. There is the website. I think so. Gone are the days when the work environment of a specific organization is, and I'm talking about the big ones, to be very honest, is elusive. It's not anymore. I think it's quite open. It's quite known. It's quite healthy. So, मेरी पहली एडवाइस थी कि लेजी मत हो अपने करियर के बारे में, राइट? लाइक आपको पता करना है ना, तो अब तो इतना डाटा अवेलेबल है, इतने लोग अवेलेबल हैं. आस्क फिगर आउट. लाइक
पता नहीं मेरा क्यों दिल कर रहा है मैं जॉब करूं.
आ जाए.
Sanaa Altaf might have some questions.
So I have a question, like in a country like Pakistan. So for example, if you're in a finance department and you're looking after the company's money and the finances, and you find out that the top management is involved in some kind of
discrepancy,
and you call it out, then you have to go to the board, and you found out that all of them are part of the game. So, and you fight it out for a couple of months, nothing happens. So what's the best way forward? Should you go to a labor code, or you just give up and just find a new job or something? Like how powerful is the
बड़ा
labor
डार्क
code?
क्वेश्चन पूछा मैं तो डर क्यों
ये इसकी अपनी जाती
नहीं मेरा ख्याल से आप एक डिस्क्लेमर दे दें कि आपकी जाती नहीं है कि आपकी लिंक्डइन पे आपकी पूरी हिस्ट्री लिखी होगी तो लोगों को शायद गलत आइडिया ना आ जाए
नहीं जनरली लेबर कोड के ऊपर काफी होते हैं केसेस.
हाँ आई थिंक ओके आई विल टेल यू अगेन लाइक आई सेड आई कैन ओनली आंसर फ्रॉम माय एक्सपीरियंस. ऑडिट्स फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स के दो तरह से होते हैं. एक एक्सटर्नल ऑडिट होता है हर क्वार्टर में होता है बाय द वे रिक्वायरमेंट है तो वेरी लिटिल घपला इज पॉसिबल. There is a bigger audit in FMCGs and MNCs which is called an internal audit, which is a lot more demanding because it is in compliance with internal control norms. Like internally, what is the standard that you hold a company to? So in case there is an issue, हमारा जो procedure है or what I've learned is that it goes into audit. So nobody just reacts to saying कि आपने ये कह दिया तो हमने ये मान लिया तो बस बात खत्म हो जाती है. Everything is investigated, right? Like you know, so
sorry to interrupt. What if the audit approves you, like you are saying the right thing, and the audit has already signed it off that the information you are providing is correct, but because they are auditors,
but they're not.
There's a familiarity threat. They want to keep on being an auditor for the next year as well. So what do you do in that situation?
वही तो मैंने कहा ना एक्सटर्नल एंड इंटरनल ऑडिट का डिफरेंस आ जाता है. एक्सटर्नल ऑडिट इज डिफरेंट एंड इंटरनल ऑडिट इज डिफरेंट. सो इन केस यू फाइंड अ बिगर फ्लॉ इन योर P&L एंड फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स इन द कंपनीज दैट यू वर्क, एक्सटर्नल ऑडिट भी होता है और साथ एक इंटरनल ऑडिट भी होता है. इंटरनल ऑडिट इज़ अ वेरी इंडिपेंडेंट एरिया एंड if there are challenges that they figured out there, it is their job to kind of fix it. And you've passed on the responsibility, to be very honest. Like, you know, and if you are still very, very sure of what you want to do and you're not appreciative of the decision, then I guess you can take legal action, but that's your calling. But where I come from, the process is quite clean, that if you have a challenge or an issue, whether it's auditory or financially or otherwise, you must highlight it. So, and when you highlight it at the right forum, the right investigation committee will investigate it. The investigation report is not only given at a country level to the right decision maker, but also to a group level. Like, you know, the big leagues are involved also. And then they kind of come up with the recommendations and all. So, मेरे एक्सपीरियंस में तो बहुत टाइट कंट्रोल्स हैं इन चीज़ों के ऊपर. सो आई एम नॉट एक्सपीरियंस्ड इट, बट अगेन लाइक आई से आई फील दैट माई एक्सपीरियंसेस आर रियली पॉजिटिव, द बेस्ट ऑफ व्हाट पाकिस्तान हैज़ टू ऑफर. एंड मे बी आई एम नॉट द राइट पर्सन टू आस्क कि अगर मसला हो जाए फिर क्या करेंगे, क्योंकि हमने कभी ये देखा ही नहीं है.
वाओ, ये तो पाकिस्तान में रह के पाकिस्तान में नहीं रहते. नहीं,
पाकिस्तान में रह के हमने कभी नहीं देखा, बट दैट इज़ लाइक द वर्च्यू ऑफ वर्किंग फॉर कंपनीज दैट आर इंटरनेशनल. नो, L'Oreal is known to be the world's most ethical company 12 years in a row.
So what's next for Sanaa Ahmed?
What's next for Sanaa? That's a very good question. I think I'm not even told my boss.
HR में होना चाहिए.
हाँ, अभी तो मेरी बॉस से बात नहीं हुई, तो चलें वो पॉडकास्ट पे सुनेंगे. I think I want to be challenged differently. So in my experience, I've done generalist roles, I've done learning and development, people development roles. I came back as the HRD, like, you know, so the leadership role in HR. And I think I want to go explore a certain new expertise within HR, maybe acquisition, maybe rewards, in order to make myself more holistic and wholesome in my trait. And then most probably handle a bigger business, take a different challenge.
So this is where you see yourself in the next 5 years?
I love working on people and with people. So I love what I do. So I think throughout the podcast I said that if you're not happy where you work, then you need to change something about it. Like, you know, and I think, and if you have, if life allows you, follow your heart, like, you know, and get, if your work doesn't energize you, it's not worth the time. Life is too short. And I think you're a great example. Like, you know, when work didn't energize you against all odds, and everybody, I'm sure, told you that you're doing the wrong thing, you're letting go of a stable income, and please do not do this to yourself. Like, you know, you came back from Dubai. Of course, we know people dream of jobs there. Like, you know, you came and you gave it all up to say, this is what I want to do, right? Yeah. But if I ask you today, are you not infinite times happier, more content with life? You are, right? So I think
I wake up whenever I want.
Or when you wake up, you actually want to work. I hope. But I think do what you love. And I love what I do. I love working with people. I love working for people. I really enjoy servicing people. I really like enabling them, empowering them, working on an environment in which I can see human potential thrive. So I love waking up and going to work. It gives me a lot of energy.
And people who whine about Monday blues, can't wait for the weekend,
They're
clearly
human.
means they don't love what they do.
No, they're human. I mean, to say just because I, on a given day, even I'm like, when am I going to get home? Like, but net, the overall feeling is of contentment. Like, so you get up on a Monday and you don't want to go to work. But when you get there, you get going. As long as you get going and that energy, that draining energy does not stay with you, you're all right. But if, your energy is draining and Monday blues is also Tuesday blues and Wednesday blues and Thursday blues and only Friday 5 o'clock is
The happy
I am
time.
back to life,
Yeah.
I think then you have something to consider. Like, I think you should share your story. It's great, no? I mean, you had it all in the corporate world too. Like,
Yeah.
but at some point in time you decided to try something new and you're happier. Like,
Yeah.
so I say that just look at your own happiness quotient. But I, alhamdulillah, am very happy. I enjoy what I do.
Thank you so much, Sanaa. It was so refreshing to speak to you and have you on. And I'm sure काफी सारे लोगों के बहुत सारे questions answer हुए होंगे.
I hope
and
so.
Yeah, definitely. And you can follow Sanaa on LinkedIn and LinkedIn only. Stay professional, and maybe she might have some great roles to offer in the near future.
Why not? I reply to all my DMs on LinkedIn, by the way.
आग लगेगी आग. ये कह के फंस गई सना.
No, I actually do. Otherwise, Altaf is in the middle of क्या कहते हैं 1000 लोगों का, but I make sure ये तो I do. Like, I'm
you.
good at that. But
That's
thank you. It
amazing.
was really fun being here. It was a great experience.
My pleasure. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. और अगर आपको लगता है कोई questions मैंने नहीं पूछे, आप comments में भी लिख सकते हैं. Maybe Sanaa might end up reading them and maybe replying. So अपना ख्याल रखिएगा, सब्सक्राइब करना नहीं भूलिएगा. इंशाल्लाह आपसे दोबारा मुलाकात होगी किसी और एपिसोड में किसी और गेस्ट के साथ. तब तक अपना ख्याल रखें. खुदा हाफिज़.